Hello and welcome to another episode of Wife for Life podcast. We are live in season 3. I am so excited. Got some great guests coming up for you. Today, we have none other than Velle Ellerbe. And let me just tell y'all, she is a guru in the health and wellness space. I can't wait for her to share all about Evolve with Vela and all the beautiful nuggets that she has to share about her marriage. So why don't you guys help me and welcome Vela? So happy to have you here.
Hey, how are you?
I am good now that I see you. Why don't you start us off and tell us a little bit about yourself?
Absolutely. So, my name is Velle Ellerbe. I am a holistic life, health, and wellness coach. I'm a mother of two. Okay. I am married to two times Super Bowl champion Danielle Ellerbe. And
Okay.
yeah, right. So, we're down in South Florida and I love it. As I mentioned before, being a coach, I have created communities such as Mamas Who Breathe and an online community of Mom Evolve with Vela. And I just love to help mothers bring back to the front of their awareness their holistic self-care practices so we can have more energy, come off the back burner, and really start to be in our lives and live in our lives and show up for ourselves and know that we can have it all. So that is where my heart beats for. That is what God has gave me such a passion and desire for. And so I show up every single day, putting my stake in the ground to move the needle forward for mothers.
So listen,
Mm,
I got a beef with you.
what's up?
You can start this like 20 years ago when this
Ooh.
mama needed it.
Ooh, I've only been a mother for 9 years. That's it. That's all I have. I've been at this for 10 years, coaching, motherhood, 9 years.
Nice. So you mean it wasn't in your spirit like 20 years ago?
It was not. It was not. I was a rock star 20 years
Oh,
ago.
I like that too. I like that. So
Yeah.
tell us, how long has Mamas Who Breathe, right?
Hmm.
And Evolve with Vela. How long has those two entities been in existence? And give us a little backstory. What made you start those two businesses?
Yeah, so Evolve with Vela is my coaching practice where I coach one-to-one women, mothers, nurturers, and caregivers. And I've been doing that work for 10 years. And just like the name Evolve with Vela, it has evolved to more and more into the practice that I have today of holistic wellness and practitioner. And also I'm on my way into herbalism and medicine woman, right? And so but that was a journey of 10 years. It started off as just weight loss. I was helping women lose weight. And every time I was in those conversations, I would just, there's more. I'm like, gosh, there's some mindset things that are happening. There's a belief things that are going on here. So I went back to school and I would get out. I'm like, okay, well, there needs to be community around this. Doing this in just one facet, just one person is not serving either. So I learned how to facilitate community. So every time I saw an issue arise in my clients ongoingly, I would go back to the drawing board to just keep developing what I know would be a better offer, right? A better offering for my client to serve them better, to get them better results. And so what I end up hanging my hat on and where my heart is the Mamas Who Breathe community. And that community was birthed from original group called the Moms Lab. And the Moms Lab started in 2017. And
Mhm.
it was when I was just a year in of being a mother, and I knew I needed help. I knew I needed support. So I just created an online presence on Facebook and was completely free for mothers. There were like 300 women in that group. And I poured in there 7 days a week. And I came up with all these different things that we could do. And I just kept listening to the mothers and creating things. Being a coach, I just kept going back and forth to that, listen to what they would say, listen to what I needed. And then I will also create for the space. So we had breathing circles. We had yoga sessions. We had people to come in and teach them. And I said, this could be something that's needed. So the pandemic started. 2018 is when I kind of closed that up because also proper energy exchange. I'm very big in
Mm.
proper energetic exchange. And so I was burning myself out 7 days a week in that community. And so I closed it down. And then that's when I had the idea that I could bring this back. And when, the pandemic rolled around, it served that same need, different situation. And so that's when Mamas Who Breathe, the community for women to show up and actually, I am investing in myself because I believe in this. That's when the dynamic changed. So I had a little paradigm shift there that happened to say, I don't want to just do this for free. I want to show up all the time. I want you to be my coach. And we really made that a community. So Mamas Who Breathe has been alive and well since 2020, and I've been doing this work for 10 years. Again, I started as a weight loss coach, and when my baby came into this world, I knew I had to learn how to go deeper within myself, and I just brought other women along for that journey, other mothers.
Wow. I mean, man, that was a mouthful and then some. First of all, great, amazing work that you're doing. I'm
Thank
so
you.
very proud of you, but also inspired by the fact that what you're doing is you're taking real life issues, real life experiences, and building a business around that. And man, there's so many women out here who may not even have an idea of where to start when it comes to building a business and being able to have the freedom of being available to their family and their children at the same time. And so thank you, first of all, for coming on and for sharing your story and allowing us to be inspired by that. Now, what you said was so meaty. So I had to write down some notes.
Yeah.
So talk to me about proper energy exchange. Tell us, what is that? What do you mean when you say proper energy exchange?
Yeah, so the by basic just energy laws, like when you give something, you're giving endlessly, right? Because it's condition of your heart. But also we have things that when we give, we ought to be able to receive at the same time because it's proper energetic exchange. So we're here today. You're gonna ask me some things. I'm gonna tell you some answers. That's proper energy exchange. We're just, swapping energy. When you go to the grocery store and you see the produce that you need on the stand, you get it, you give them money. That's proper energy exchange. I'm going to give you this, right? So there came a time when I was building my practice and I was just giving myself away and giving myself away and giving myself away. And I realized the reason I feel so drained as I'm trying to be of service, I'm doing myself a disservice because I there needs to be a proper energetic exchange for me as the coach, but also for the women who are receiving the coaching to say, I'm investing in myself. So
Yeah.
I'm going to give you this, right? Because this is a deposit into me. Right. And so, and I have this saying that I always say that, math is not my ministry, right? I always say what's not, but self-care is, right? I know for sure that God gave me this in my belly and in my heart to pour out. So the
Yeah.
same way when we support other things, supporting someone's practice that they have is also supporting the work that God has laid out in for my life. So
Mm.
it is proper energetic exchange in that way. That's what I mean when I say that.
I love that, a give and a take. And let me just say, personally, that sits with me because I think as women, we are such givers. We give and we give and we give. And sometimes we struggle with guilt, feeling a
Mhm.
little guilty when it comes to our giving, feeling a little guilty to expect something in return when it comes to our giving.
Yeah.
And it's an opportunity, as you stated, for people to be able to invest not in your business, but in themselves. Now, of
Mhm.
course, in turn, with the proper energy exchange, you do get some benefit from them paying you to do what you do, to give what you give. But on the other side, the other coin to that is it allows us to feel good and
Mhm.
proud of ourselves for investing in ourselves, for investing in our self-care and our holistic care, which is another question that I want to ask you about.
Mhm.
So, when you say holistic living, I have my thoughts about that. I have my
Mhm.
ideas, and it's very much a goal of my own. But can you tell the listeners and the viewers, what do you mean about holistic living when you say that's something that you have had to embrace and embody, and now you are gifting to your clients?
Absolutely. So, holistic self care and wellness looks like considering and thinking of all of you when you are molding a self-care practice for yourself. So that looks like the body, the mind, the spirit. Okay. And then within each segment of those, I call them hygienes, because we're going to go down and do the 9 dimensions of wellness, which then gives you your financial wellness, your environmental wellness, your vocational. So if we really treat ourselves like the multi-dimensional beings that we are, then we feel fulfilled, right? Our spirituality, all of those things like have to be fed, because if not, they get funky. And so
Mm.
with each way and each segment of who we
You
are,
said
if
it
we
get
are doing, say
You
that
said
again.
I like that.
Yes, it can get funky. The same thing, because when you think about your physical hygiene, you don't shower, you're gonna get
Come, I
funky.
like
Okay.
that.
So
Okay,
we
so we
if
don't want
we're
to get funky.
you don't want to get funky. You don't. So if you take a little time and invest in each area of your well-being, and you just put some attention there. It's not, we're not pushing for perfection, but what we are doing is having attention and being intentional about giving it some attention. So then when we see, we can start to feel ourselves being off. You know what? I haven't done something that's going to get my body moving. You know what? My mind
Mm.
is feeling kind of foggy. I've been having a lot of random thoughts. Maybe I should go and do some journaling. And you start to notice yourself, which births self awareness. And I just love it so much.
I love the way you said that. And in my mind, I think of it as something don't smell right.
It ain't right.
It is just not right. And that's so
Mhm.
important. We have to be in tune with ourselves. We have to pay attention to ourselves. We have to give to ourselves in order to notice that something ain't right.
That's
To
it.
notice that something needs to change, that I need to do something different in order to get a different response. I need to do something different in order to get into a more healthy, better place in my life. So
Mhm.
I love that. And I love holistic living. And that's really been a point of my coaching as well as of late. It's just encouraging the wives, come on, pay attention to yourselves, because
Yes.
oftentimes when we're unhappy, it's because we are not giving ourselves the holistic
Whew.
attention that we
Mhm.
need and we deserve. And and you know what? I'm not going to even jump ahead, because you said something to me in our talk about happiness that I really,
Mm.
really want to get to. But we're going to get to that later. We're going to get to
Okay.
that
Okay.
later. Now, let me see. You got so many good nuggets. Tell me, some of our listeners and viewers are actually people who either have jobs that move
Mhm.
them from one state or one city or one area to another. Some of them are actually wives who are married to professional athletes of any kind, and they have to deal with the transition of one state to another, and even the transition of retirement for their spouse or themselves if they're the professional athlete. Tell us a little bit about what your path has been, particularly when it comes to being married to a professional athlete and having to go from team to team.
Mhm. Yes. So my journey of, I love the word that you used for transition, because that's exactly what it was. And I didn't understand it at the time. But that way of transitioning from team to team, from really moving around and all of those things was not easy for me. Back then, my husband played for 10 years and his last year was 2017. So it's been a few years. And during that time of us traveling and moving around, I had to be open to mingle, right? And I'm a little bit of an introvert when it comes to day-to-day relationships, definitely an extrovert when it comes to work and all of those things.
Yeah.
However, I found myself really sad and not really being able to put my finger on what was happening in the midst of me, moving around, especially coming from that first team. The first team we were a part of was a family, and that was what I was used to. Everyone took to everyone. It was a beautiful experience. Family, boom. So to be uprooted from your family, what felt like family, right? And to be moved across to somewhere else, just dropped in the middle, it was not a good experience. My husband, we ended up on a team where we lived 45 minutes away from the facility, which meant I was 45 minutes away from what I now know is very important, community, right? And
Yeah.
so I did not do well. And the result of me being away from community is I experienced postpartum, seasonal depression, which also later led to me experiencing postpartum depression. Not that they're one of the same, but they happen on the same timeline because I was so far away from everyone. I didn't have my
Yeah.
family there. I didn't have my husband's family there. I
Mm.
didn't know anyone, and it was really hard because during that time period of his career, I had a newborn and I also had a 2-year-old. So to pack them up, and go to travel to the events was a lot. I was nursing, all the things that come into play. 45 minutes away with my first time ever having a 2-year-old and a newborn, it was just not happening. So I found myself isolated a lot in that season.
I now would love for you to share what your experience has been when it comes to transitioning, because there's going to be some of our viewers that have jobs that move them from one state to another, or from one city to another, or even different side of town, right? And then in the professional athletics world, we know there are abrupt changes in where our husbands may work, and we have to roll with the punches. So tell us a little bit about what your experience has been with transition, being that your husband was on several teams as well.
Absolutely. So for me, transition was really tough, for a couple of reasons that I now have the language for, that I really didn't understand while I was in the
Yeah.
midst of all that happening. The first thing was I am an extrovert, when I'm talking and I'm working and I'm doing the things I've been called to do, but in my personal day-to-day experience, I'm a little bit of an introvert, and it takes me a moment to warm up. So for my husband to transition from one team to the next, on the first team when we were there a few years, of course, eventually I came out of my shell. We developed relationships and friendships that felt like family. So to be uprooted from that, and to just really, two things are happening again. To be uprooted from that, to move forward, realizing that one is a business. Oh my goodness, that was a big learning curve for me too. But also to know and realize that this has to be a part in order for me to seamlessly make it through. And I didn't have that. I didn't have the ability to just go from one thing to the other. I didn't have my family. I had no friends that were there when we were going through these different transitions. And then one piece that really sticks out to me is that for one of the team transitions we had, I had a 2-year-old and a newborn at the same time. And so I'm nursing for the same time, for
Ooh.
the first time, excuse me. I'm doing all these different things as a first time mother of two. And
Mm.
in my mind, I couldn't just come and go to the events because we were 45 minutes away from the facility. So it
Mm.
left me isolated, and it left me to myself a lot of the time. And I experienced seasonal depression because we also had an element change of the weather. And so that was the first time I found myself, sad from the moves. And what I now know, I have the language for now, is that I was lacking community. And that's
Mm.
why I believe that community is so important, because I had no one other than my husband. And with 45 minutes away from home, he's up before I'm up because I'm up and down all night with the baby. And then he's back when it's time to go to bed, because again, he was 45 minutes away from the facility.
Yeah. Yeah. And community is huge. Like,
Hmm.
community is so huge. It's bigger than we all give it pause to be.
Yeah.
And we
Yeah.
should give more attention to the importance of community. There are organizations that I follow online, like Off the Field Wives
Hmm.
Association and Women of the NFL, where we met in Las Vegas at that conference. And we built such a great community at that conference, right? And it made me think about when my husband was playing. And then again, when we had the opportunity to be chaplains for the Bears for 5 years, how things were still kind of not as well as I would have liked to see them be. That there was still issues with building community, particularly amongst the wives. And that really saddened me because
Mm-hmm.
we need each other. Like you said, when you're moving from one state to another, you're leaving your family. You may have a very young family of your own. Nothing you need more than community. There's
Right.
nothing you need more than community. And my hope, especially as women, is if we can step out of our own biases a little bit, and just look at the next wife as a human being who desires to be seen, to be heard, and to feel like they're a part of a community and feel like they're a
Mm-hmm.
part of something great, because that is a great time in our lives. And my hope is that all wives feel that when they move to a new community. So if in fact you haven't been that for a wife, why don't you consider
Mm-hmm.
starting some type of community? I see posts all the time with wives getting together, but it's not a lot of teams that are cultivating that type of community for the wives. And my hope and my prayer is that even the teams would begin to take ownership of cultivating that type of atmosphere for the wives. Because if the husbands come home to a peaceful home, then they
Mm-hmm.
are going to perform better on the field,
Mm-hmm.
on the court or wherever and whatever their profession is, in the boardroom or in the office. It's applicable in no matter what the career path is when the home is peaceful. The productivity of the employee or even the CEO or the entrepreneur, the percentage goes up great. Bunch of data behind that. The percentage, the effectiveness, and the productivity
Mm-hmm.
increases tremendously. So, with that being said, thank you for sharing that. And I'm so happy that you were at some point able to find community, but I'm even more happy of the example that you're setting for us in building a community with moms, because we
Mm-hmm.
need that. I mean, most of us don't know what we're doing when we become a mom. So, you can read books,
Yeah.
but it's just not the same.
No.
So, okay. So let's talk, since you talked about holistic, let's talk mental health. How
Mm-hmm.
has even those transitions, even motherhood, even entrepreneurship, how have these things impacted your mental health? And what suggestions would you give to our listeners and viewers as far as how to take good care of their mental health?
Absolutely. And before I answer that question, I just have to, because it comes up for me and I just like to say it. I want to say the names of Amber Robinson. Amber was the lady who connected me to Chelsea Ingram and Emily Costin. And that was my community when I found myself in that dark time. And a lot of times we don't say it out loud. We don't share it. I'm from the South. Okay. You don't talk about the inside house business outside. Now I turn my house inside out. Okay. Now my house is turned inside out, and I don't mind being super transparent about everything. But if it
I
were
love
not for those ladies, if it were not for them loving on me, that I wouldn't have found the community, only because I was super, and I take part in that, right? I was
it.
super introverted, and I had a hard time, sparking that conversation and allowing myself to be open to receive friendship. So also, to your point, be open. I love everything you said. And I would say, if you find yourself having anything that I have said resonate with you of who you are and how you are as a person, please be
Mm,
open to the love, because sometimes people want to love on you, but if you are closed off, there's no way they can get that love to you. And so
yes.
and it's medicine. Love like that and community is medicine. So allow yourself to have that experience.
Mm,
um but you asked about my mental health as it pertains to my business and my family. and how I've been able to sustain myself in that way. And for me, it looks like always evaluating what's on my plate. I even have an exercise that I have for my community, and anytime I'm working with someone one to one, I love offering up this exercise. And it's when you take in inventory, right, on what is it that you are actually doing that is not what you should be. And I say should be because you have that authority to say what you should and shouldn't be doing for self. I'm not saying you, I'm saying self, right?
Right.
What is it in your life right now that you have picked up along the way out of niceness or kindness and is not assigned to you in this season? Because sometimes, especially as mamas, we want to just do it all. Yeah, come on, give me that too, I can do that too. And you're doing less and less for yourself because you want to serve so many people. So
Mm,
when we stop and we look like, what needs my immediate attention right now in this season? And that has been a game changer for me. Once I start living from that space, I may not, okay, prime example right now, my husband is away. So this is a live example of right now. I met some beautiful women in Costa Rica last month. Some of them
mm,
are around me in my area, but for me, what I need is to do less. So I haven't been able to connect with those women the way I want to, but I know I will next month. But this month, I need to take care of me and everything inside my household because I'm one parent short. It's gonna make me more tired to go out and do all this extra mingling, especially because I'm a person who needs full recharging,
mm.
from outer outings. But I know that about myself. So now what I get to do is I'm gonna get with you next month. I love you so much. You are so beautiful. I cannot wait to spend more time with you. But that needs to happen next month because I know myself. So I wouldn't add that to my plate for me to do from
Mhm,
being nice and hoping they like me more,
mhm.
for showing up right now when I feel like I should, because I would have. And then that would have added to my burnout. So always being mindful of like, what needs my immediate attention has served me really well. And it's a part of my practice. And I keep it at the forefront because I am recovering from people pleasing and I am recovering from trying to do it all, being a person who hung my hat on making it all and being strong, and being able to do it all. So that stays at the forefront of my practice.
I love that too. Oh my goodness. Um, I love the idea of self-awareness that you mentioned in there. And just knowing that uh, when you're one parent down, you can't do the outer things that energize you because in that
Mm,
moment they won't energize you.
mm-mm.
They'll drain you. They'll make you feel probably some level of anxiety because you're trying to
Yeah,
do too much at
that's
that
it.
time. I
Mm-hmm.
love that. Thank you for
Mm.
that nugget. That was beautiful. Also, I wanted to ask you about so community, right, could be friendships,
Mm-hmm.
it could be relationships with other couples. It could be a lot of things. But when it comes to getting help, if there are some things that you feel like you're not able to create that level of self-awareness, or you may be having a mental block in an area of your life and you recognize something's not quite right, or as we said, something don't smell right
Don't
earlier,
smell quite right.
what are some things that you and Danelle have done to help yourselves in those type of situations?
Absolutely. I'm a person that believes that anytime you have anything to come up, and all for all areas of your life, that there should be some type of mentorship, therapy, counseling, bring someone in, a baseline statement, ask for help. So
Yes.
always ask for the help that you need, but and also be in that preventative care of taking care of the things that you have. So, we spoke before and you use the analogy of a car. And I love that so much because we would never let our car go to E. We would never do that. So in our relationships with ourselves, like what could we do? My husband and I, we go through different seasons of having mentorship collectively. So that may look like being in therapy, being in coaching, whatever it needs to be for that season. But also what we have a
Mhm.
non-negotiable about is keeping a individual one-to-one coach. So no matter if we're having sessions together, we are always committed to having someone pouring into us individually. And so right
Yeah.
now we're in the season of just having our personal mentors, and we just came out a couple of months ago of doing some things together. But we use the tools that we come together to learn how to communicate better and all those things in our marriage daily. And when we feel like we need a fine tune up, or we
Mhm.
starting to clash a little bit, or things are just not as even or feel as good as they used to, then we don't wait till it's bad. We just go ahead back. We know who to go to. We know what to talk to. Like, let's take this thing in for a little tune up, and that's how we live.
Yeah. Um, I want to let everybody know, just to give them the insight to the car analogy that
Yeah.
you mentioned that we had discussed previous to this. And basically, as you see on the wall, activating intentional marriages, that's what we're about. And with intentionality, we believe that you can have the marriage that you desire. And the analogy that we use is a car. You purchase a car and you expect that car to last 10 years or more. And during that time and effort to ensure that that car lasts 10 years or more, you'll get gas on a regular. You'll get it washed and waxed and vacuumed and cleaned. You'll get
Mhm.
oil changes every 2 or 3 months. You'll get an annual tune up, as you mentioned, you guys do in your marriage. Um, You'll do a wheel alignment to make sure everything is straight. You do all these things. If something breaks down, you're taking it in the shop to get repaired. All these things, a plethora of things that we do to ensure that our car lasts 10 plus years. But when it comes to our marriages, for some reason, we don't see the value of putting gas in it, which is like a date night and spending quality time together. We
Mhm.
don't see the value in a tune-up, like, which could be like going to a marriage conference. We don't see the value in a wheel alignment, which could be obtaining a mentor, a coach, or a therapist to help you navigate some of the things that are in disarray in your marriage. I want to encourage each and every one of you to consider your marriage better than a car. Why? Because we want our marriages to last till death do us part. And if you got married young, man, that could be 40, 50, 60 years you want it to last. So why not put the effort into making your car, your marriage last for a lifetime,
Mhm.
right? So I
Mhm.
love how you talked about the tune up in the marriage, but I also love how you talked about the importance and the non-negotiable even of
Yeah.
you guys getting your own individual therapy. Man, let me tell you, I would say maybe in the more recent 7 years of my practice, I have been really pushing individual work. Why? Because it takes two to tango. It's
Mhm.
two people in a marriage, and those two people were raised different. They have different ideas, thoughts, triggers, traumas, baggage. They have different stuff that they bring to the marriage. And you can say, oh, I want to work on the marriage. But if you don't first work on your own stuff, we can give you
Okay.
all kinds of skills, but they're not going to be effective because you haven't done the work on self first. So I love that you guys are doing the work, and I would encourage anybody that's listening to go and do some work on self. That your marriage can get better if only you do work. I get clients who say, well, if he's not doing it, then it's not going to work. Or if she's not doing it, then it's not going to work. Oh, no, it will get better if only you do it. And guess what? You may have been called to be the example. You may have been called to lead the way in that effort.
Mhm.
So I love what you guys are doing. What a shining example you guys are.
Mhm.
Y'all are the bomb.com.
Oh,
Listen,
thank you.
me and my husband want y'all in our community. How about that?
Yeah, come on, let's make it happen. I love that. And
Yeah.
I would love to speak to what you just said, because for my marriage, it was one before the other. It was that way. And what happened in our household is that we started to grow apart just a little bit. And
Mm.
I love my husband and my husband loved me, and we like this. So what's the difference? So what has changed? So what happened? Okay, well, I am in all this self-development stuff because of the business. So, I do have a coach, and even though it's for the business, they make you work on yourself first. So maybe you should speak with someone. And as soon as we started to realize, because to the point, sometimes you don't realize when one person maybe they're in personal development or whatever the case may be. For my household, that's what it was. There starts to be a separation because the thinking starts to change, your beliefs start to shift, all these things are start your perspective, right?
Yes.
So to do it together is really beautiful because then you can grow together because somebody's gonna grow.
Mm-hmm.
Long dramatic pause. So
Right.
but you want to do that together, and that's really beautiful. I think that's really beautiful to your point. So I just wanted to say that came up for me.
Yes. I oftentimes, and listen, we might be about to really beat wives down on this issue, but we oftentimes look to our husbands to be the leader of the home. And I always try to encourage wives to understand that they too are leaders in their home.
For sure.
They too have leadership skills to offer, and that's biblical.
Mm,
First Peter 3 tells us as wives that we too have influence in our homes. We have influence over our husbands, and that our actions, our deeds, our communication, and the way we communicate, all those things are valuable and important in our influence. And so I love the thought of us now not just feeling our girl power in the way society or culture says it, but looking at your value and what gifts you have to bring to the table in your relationship. And if that means first you have to make the changes in your life to influence your husband to do the same, then let's get it done.
mm-hmm.
Let's let's be leaders. Let's teach our husbands how to lead a leader.
I love that.
Powerful, long dramatic pause.
Mm-hmm.
Let's teach them how to lead a leader by being a
Yeah.
leader ourselves. And
Yeah.
like you said, what a beautiful thing, what a beautiful opportunity if we
Mm-hmm.
just go for it and do it, and not with negativity, not with anger,
Mm-hmm.
frustration, or contempt. Like, he didn't do it, I had to leave. No, you were given the
Mm-hmm.
opportunity to do it.
That's it.
And you win no matter what.
That's it. I love that.
Yeah, me too. So, okay, more about you. What would you say? Ooh. Okay. What would you say? What advice would you give to the next generation of wives, to the new wives or the newly engaged women? What advice would you give them?
Yes. So, my advice for anyone who is coming up to think about marriage or partnership or any of those things is to know, and I say this from like experience and having to come to this realization for myself, is that
Mhm.
your happiness is an inside job. That is
Mm,
a you and a God thing, and that you bring to the table to add to your marriage or to your partnership. Not that when you get into the room or you get into the marriage or you get into the relationship, is that other person supposed to just do turn tricks, okay, and make you happy.
yeah.
And for a very long time, I say that because for a very long time, I met my husband when I was 17 years old, and we didn't have our first kid until I was 24. Till I was 24. And
Mm,
so I thought that we were supposed to get into this union and he was supposed to make me happy. Like he to a certain extent, like be the entertainment for me. Like, what are you doing for me today that just makes me happy? Like if I didn't have those butterflies from him doing all these things and wooing me, to make me feel well on the inside that I was not in a good relationship, that he and to the extent that he wasn't a good partner. And it wasn't until I had my first child. Like we went like that for the first part of our marriage until I had my 9-year-old, he's 9 now, that I
Mhm.
realized that, oh, this is on me.
Wow.
He's doing everything, but this is on me. And so for a very, very, very long time, my husband carried that burden and he didn't fuss about it. And I think what I can say for the things that were modeled for us, that it seemed normal. It seemed like that's how it was supposed to be. So if I
Mhm.
had to offer up anything, is to take really good care of yourself. Make sure that back to that self-awareness. If you know yourself, then you can do those things that are going to keep you full and well for yourself and yourself alone first, so that
Yeah.
you can show up for your marriage, for your children, and your friendships and your relationships. It makes you filling up on you, like, against all the narratives that says it's so selfish, or the trends that come and they go. Like, you have to love on yourself so you can pour more. It's like the fuel that just keeps everything circulating. So yeah.
Yes. And ironically, I found personally, when I take ownership of my happiness, I have more patience
Mm,
and more love for Ray than I have when I don't take care of my own happiness.
yeah. Yeah. Because you're not angry because somebody is not turning the tricks.
Yeah.
You're not waiting. I'm
Yeah.
sorry. You got me excited.
Oh, I love it. And to add on to that, you didn't give your power and ownership away.
That's it. That's it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we have to learn how to keep our power, not because we're trying to be over someone, but
Mhm.
no, we have to take ownership of our own life and our own happiness, joy, and the things that we want out of life. Um, I have some clients who in the past have been angry because they felt like it was unfair for them to have to teach their husbands how to treat them.
Mm.
And I was like, well, how else will they know
How
how to
they gonna know?
treat
Yeah.
you if you don't teach them, if you don't tell them, if you don't share what your needs, your wants, and your desires are? I personally think that's unfair to the husband.
And mhm. I
No,
was
go.
gonna say, how do they know if you don't know?
Ooh, ooh, say it, sis.
Because that's the thing. If we don't know ourselves, you want your partner to just continue to guess. And I said people because that's in friendships. If you don't know how you want to be treated in your relationships and your friendships and all those things, how do they know if you don't first know? And that comes with that gaining of self-awareness. And that's why the work is so important. To your point, going back, those mentors, that coaching, because it takes you deeper within yourself to where you have the answers. But otherwise, it's a guessing game,
Yeah.
And I feel so passionate about that because I was out here letting my husband guess what's
Mm.
next. What else you got in your back pocket? You know what I'm saying? It didn't serve us at all.
Yeah, look, I'm gonna sip my tea on how will they know if you don't know? Mm. Dang. Ooh, that was deep. I like that. So I want you to tell a little bit. We're rounding toward the end, but I got a couple of questions. Um, Maybe more than a couple. We might have to do some edits, but we'll see. But
Okay.
motherhood. Um,
Mhm.
you shared with me a little bit about postpartum depression and having to go through that journey. What was that like for
Yeah.
you?
Yeah. Postpartum depression for me was, that saying, I can't remember the name of the book, but they call it the darkest before dawn, that dark night of the soul. That's what it was for me. And what I know now is that God was stretching me and developing me and molding me for what it is that I'm doing now and using me. I was being used. But when I was living through it, it did not feel like that. It felt like I was failing. And it's because I had my first child, who's now, like I said before, and I felt the saddest I had ever felt. I felt the loneliest I had ever felt. All these things I was feeling, and I could not understand it. And then I wanted to be quiet about it because up until motherhood, I was the strong friend, the relative, the strong person that everybody came to. So now here I am being superhuman, you
Mhm.
know, and I felt like I wasn't supposed to have these feelings. And
Mm.
what I know is that I was being broken for one, for not broken, but being, I don't like that word, falling apart to come back together, for God to be able to build me back together, but with Him included into the mix this time. Because
Yeah.
before I felt like I could do it all. I had never been under enough pressure for it to feel like, you're in my life, but you're not leading my life. You know what I'm saying? It was a massive difference, a huge difference, drastic rather
Yeah.
difference. And so for me, I found myself having to get really honest with myself, because when I went to my doctors, I went to my OBGYN, I wanted to say something. So when they handed me that iPad, I was like, okay, finally. But I found myself having a questionnaire that asked me if I cried every day and I wasn't, or if I felt like committing suicide and I didn't. So I
Mm.
fell through the gaps at my OBGYN, and it wasn't until I started being honest and I said, God, if you help me get out of here, because I don't know where this is. I've never felt that type of sadness before. I felt the emotion of sad, but not that kind of sad. And
Mhm.
I said, God, if you help me get from this place, not only will I talk about it, I will help other people if that's what you have me to do. Whatever, just get me up from out of here. And
Mm.
the people started coming. The prayer started coming in form of people asking me different questions until I found out where I'm from. I'm from the country, so they called it baby blues, but they just made it seem if it was something that you would just be sad about. When in
Mm.
reality, what was happening, I have the language for now, is I wasn't eating properly, right? So I felt off within my gut and in my brain. Those two are connected. I
Yeah.
also was not going outside because I felt like the U rays from the sun was too much for the infant. Like it was too much for my baby. His skin, like y'all would not believe. I was not taking my baby outside because I really felt like it would harm him. Layer
Wow.
that with not getting enough sleep because I'm nursing. I was in a just unhealthy, to chop it up. So once I started, for me and my personal experience,
Mhm.
realizing and connecting the dots that I wasn't taking care of myself, and I started to take care of myself, then I got honest with my doctors and I started to feel better, and they checked my levels and they did everything. They said, oh, well, it looks like you were experiencing postpartum depression, but from where you are now compared to where you're telling us you were, it seems like you have come out of that, but we want to monitor you a bit. Want you to come in, So they started to take really good care of me
Mhm.
after I was honest. But
Yeah.
before, I was so strong. It can't be. So that combination left me um open to that experience.
Yeah. Wow. What a
Hmm.
powerful story. So you found purpose in your pain, and that's
Hmm.
what birthed Mamas Who Breathe.
Mm. So that is when I started the Moms Lab. And then Mamas Who Breathe was to follow, because I realized this was not just something I was gonna talk about, but actually something that we could be in prevention of. Because if
Mhm.
you have the community, if you have the right things to eat so your body feels well, your body knows what to do with that food, you're eating more whole-based food, you have
Mhm.
a relationship with sleep, you have a relationship with nature, you're in a pretty good health to where you can come out. And I'm also, I don't know if I said that to you before, a postpartum doula. So I watch my clients come
Oh.
out on the other side of postpartum, which I believe we're always in that postpartum phase after we birth, because you always are going to be a mother, but they have better experiences. And that first 40 days after birth is so sacred. Your body is closing back up, your
Mhm.
mind is coming, you're settling back into your body, because what we do is very primitive. Like it's a very nature based experience that we
Mhm.
have. We don't treat it as such, but our body goes through these different transitions to open up to have the baby. So
Yeah.
just the closing of the body is just as sacred and as important as preparing that to have birth.
Mhm.
Having the pregnancy and the post should be honored and deemed sacred as well, so you can heal properly.
Yeah. Wow.
Mhm.
Wow. So powerful. Man, girl, what don't you do?
That's
I
all
watch
in the same wheelhouse.
Listen, I see your videos, your reels, and I see your kids helping making
Mhm.
juicing and eating and drinking healthy. I'm like, man, that I 20 years ago, I still got that beef with you. I'm just saying, 20 years
I
ago,
told you I was a rock star 20 years ago. I wouldn't have been able to help.
yes. So, um, how would how do you do it all? How do you balance being a wife, a mother, and an entrepreneur? How do you do it?
So I don't do it all. And I'm so happy to say that. I don't. I believe in delegating. I believe in asking for help. I believe in getting the support you need when you need it, depending on what that looks like. I believe that um, like I was speaking to before, knowing where you are in your season and not bringing anything extra on your plate for the sake of niceness or to say that you're doing it all.
Mhm,
I check in with myself a lot to see what it is that I need as an everyday practice for me. And
mhm,
then also, I believe in compartmentalizing. So when I am at home with my children, I am at home with my children. When I am locked into work, they know that, okay, mom's going to work for a couple of hours, and they give me that respect. And my husband, steps in to make sure that they give me that boundary so that I can just knock it out and be done with it.
mhm,
But I give everything my full attention when I'm doing it. And also, I think I was sharing with you before, I don't believe in the word balance because it means, for me, when I think of that, it makes me feel like everything has to be like kept up, like I'm doing this juggling act, but
mhm,
everything can work together in harmony. So I love that word a lot better when I think about how it all comes together, because it can be a seamless flow if I just pay attention to myself and to my family and know that sometimes I'm not going to get everything done that I was supposed to get done at work.
yeah.
Because my priority is being at everything for my children when they have different events, support my husband in every endeavor that he steps up the back to swing. So everything won't happen. So that means I'm gonna wake up a little earlier to get my things done. Sometimes it just depends on where I am and what season. But again, that comes all the way back down to the self-awareness and knowing where I am, evaluating the plate, and really living through that practice.
Mm, I
Mm-hmm.
love it. So harmony over
Mm-hmm.
balance. I
I
like
love it. Yeah.
harmony over balance. Okay, last question, and
Okay.
it's kind of a twofold.
Okay.
So I first want you to answer, what's the hardest thing about being married or being a wife? The second part to that is, what's the best thing about marriage and being a wife?
Ooh, this is juicy. The hardest thing about being married for sure is checking my ego. I am an
Woo!
Aries through and through and through and through and through. And sometimes I just wanted to go the way I feel like it should go because it should go the way I feel like it should go. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
Uh, so considering my husband and bringing him into all the decisions that I make and allowing for us to be in agreement with those things is the hardest, because sometimes I just want to say yes out the gate, fast, quick. Um, in the You said the easiest part about the marriage,
Best.
the easiest thing and the
Best.
thing I love the most, the best part is knowing that I have someone, I'm doing life with my best friend. And I mean that from the depths of my soul. We were rock stars together, okay? And we also healed and transitioned together. And so to know that when I step, he steps, when he steps, I step, that
Mm,
just feels really good. And to be on that page, to know that if nobody, like right now, my husband's away, and my kids are like, oh, I don't miss daddy. They're doing that. And he made the statement. He said, babe, he was like, you was there before those kids. And we're going out together. We're going to live. He was joking. But it
I-
was so funny because that's it. That's our mentality. We are in this thing together. And so, yeah, being able to do life with my best friend is a blessing.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's awesome. If I had some music, I would cue Frankie Beverly and May saying, "We are one." I can't sing, so
Yeah.
yes, we are one, and I love that. And man, that's why I said, we need to do this community thing together, because I feel feel the same way about my husband. That's my boo.
Yeah.
But he is my best friend. Like, we can honestly talk about anything and everything
Mhm.
together. We have created a safe space to be transparent
Yeah,
and genuine and real.
that's it.
And so yeah, we laugh together, we learn together, we grow together, we cry together. We do it all, and I love to see that in you guys as well.
Yeah,
So
thank you.
yeah, we got to do this thing. I feel like I might need a part two. You up for that?
Let's do it. Let's do a part two. I would love it.
Yes, because I didn't even get to some of the questions we were talking about.
Mhm.
free free podcast. So yeah, so we'll definitely have to do that. But in the meantime, Vela, I want to say thank you. You
Mhm.
have been a phenomenal guest with a plethora of wisdom and nuggets to share. And I know, and now I hope they know that you got a lot more to you as
Mm.
well. So
Thank you so much. And thank you for having me. And also, thank you for the work that you are doing. This is so important. This is so, so, so important. Just at large with everything that's happening that we see, to be able to see this spotlight on marriages as well. This is beautiful. So, thank you.
yes, yay! Hey, I thank God for the vision, the education, and the courage.
Yeah, talk about it.
Yeah, people who know me know I could be just as comfortable in the background as well. But and social media is not my favorite thing, but I'm learning to embrace what God has for me more
Come
than
on.
what my fears would have me do. So
That's it.
yeah. Yep.
Beautiful.
Hey guys, if you have not already checked out Vela, Evolve with her, Breathe with her and other mamas, and just check her out and see if maybe she's offering something that would be good for you in your life.
Mhm.
You are
Mhm.
current. I wish I had this 20 years ago. But thank you again, Mama. I appreciate you, and I look forward to a part two. I'm real serious
Yeah,
about that.
me too.
And thank you guys for tuning in to our podcast. This is Wife for Life, because that's what we want you to be. That's what we want to be. So I'm looking forward to seeing you, hearing from you. Please hit us up on our social media tags on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, but also on Instagram and LinkedIn and Facebook. And let us know what you think, what you want to hear, who you want us to interview. And hey, we'll do our best to make it happen. Thank you guys again for listening and watching. I hope you have a fantastic day. This is Michelle McElroy, your relationship specialist.